Remember when Path of Exile 2 dropped and there was real, genuine worry going around that PoE1 was on its way out? Old graphics, no new players, all the resources going one direction, and then Settlers happened. A 45-week league, way longer than anything before it, and people pointed at that and went, see, told you so, PoE1's getting the cold shoulder. I never bought that argument for what it's worth. My take back then was the opposite. GGG was cranking out all these new assets for PoE2, new enemies, new bosses, and if they were smart, they'd start leveraging that work across both games instead of wasting it. I've always thought these two games were going to end up helping each other, not fighting over scraps. And the timing on this actually couldn't be better. GGG just did the live reveal and Q&A for Curse of the Allflame a couple of days ago, PoE1's next expansion. I figured this was the perfect moment and actually check that old theory against what they're saying right now. Not just guess, and address where things actually stand heading into it. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Sammy. Let's get to it. All right, let's actually go back in time for a second here and relive those moments, because I think it's easy to forget what that moment actually felt like. I know I remember it being a very contagious moment between the OG PoE1 player base and the new PoE2 players. Path of Exile 2 gets announced, and then early access drops, and it looks incredible. It had its issues, but aesthetically stunning. New engine, new combat, everything PoE1 dominated for years in the ARPG space. And suddenly, PoE1 is sitting right next to it, looking like the older sibling. You'd see it everywhere. Comments, forum threads, clips, people going, yeah, PoE1 had a good run. But why would I go back to that now? The graphics look dated next to it. The onboarding felt clunky next to it. And the read a lot of people landed on wasn't just PoE1 is worse. It was PoE1 is done. GGG's clearly moving on. This game's going to get left to rot while all the real effort goes into the new one. And then Settlers kept being extended. And for a lot of people, that was the moment they felt like they caught GGG red-handed. PoE1 leagues have basically always run somewhere between 12 to 19 weeks. Very consistent for years. Settlers of Kalgor runs 45 weeks. Not a little longer than normal, over double the longest league before it. And that stretch lines up during PoE2 launching into early access, and actually Settlers continued to run for another 5 months until June 9th after PoE2's early access. So when people said, look, they pulled everyone off of PoE1 to go make PoE2, that wasn't people being paranoid. That's a real visible number sitting right there in the league history archives. And it landed at the exact moment everyone was already primed to believe it. So I get why the whole PoE1 is getting left behind thing took off the way that it did. For a minute, the data actually backed it up, but that wasn't the whole story. All right, so those are all the receipts. Now let's get into what's actually true today, because this is where the full story gets clearer. A bunch of new interviews just dropped. Days old, GG live reveal. There was a Q&A for the reveal, and there was another interview with Destin. So all these things you're going to hear are coming from those sources. And Mark said something that basically addressed this head on. Mark said, if you stop growing your audience, well, it's only going to go one way, and that's down. And he goes further, saying they specifically want PoE2 players to give PoE1 a try and PoE1 players to check out PoE2. Both directions, both communities growing, not one feeding off the other. And Mark added, the fully dedicated PoE1 core, designers, gameplay programmers, UI programmers is only about 13 to 14 people. 3 game designers, 2 or 3 programmers. That's the whole dedicated core. But Mark was upfront that this isn't the full picture either. Once you count Q&A, community, and general UI work, he said you're looking at more like 30 to 40. And then live ops, producers, narratives, even microtransactions. Those are shared across both games. So depending on how you count it, he said the real number is honestly hard to pin down exactly. He did mention the studio overall runs around 200 people in-house total across both PoE1 and PoE2 combined. So this isn't 13 people doing everything alone. It's a small dedicated core backed by a shared support structure that both games draw from, which honestly makes the output even more impressive, not less. All right, and this is the part I think actually settles it, because it's not just PoE1 getting help. Ideas are flowing in both directions right now in this exact patch. PoE1 just removed Sokka colors completely after basically 12 plus years of them being part of the game. And when they explained why, they said it straight up. They'd already had this exact conversation once before for PoE2. When they removed skill gems from gear entirely, same underlying problem, same team learning from one game and applying it to the other. Same thing with the new keyword system. Hover over a term in PoE1 now, and it just tells you what it means. No more alt-tabbing to a wiki. That's ported straight from Path of Exile 2. If you watched my crafting navigator video, this is the exact thing I was asking for crafting, and it's already happening, just going the other direction this time. And the Abyss rework in this same patch, straight from the interview quote, "When we brought Abyss over to Path of Exile 2, some functional changes were made to improve the gameplay significantly. The majority of those changes will be making their way back to PoE1. That's not me connecting dots or coming up with theories. That's them telling you directly. And this isn't some far-off promise either. Curse of the Allflame launches July 25th, so this is landing in days, not months. You'll be able to go check it out yourself almost immediately. I do want to be honest about one thing, because it's not all perfectly smooth. And they said it themselves too. Porting stuff between the game isn't instant. Things like the build planner and the price checker are still missing from PoE1. And the reason is kind of funny. According to Mark, the best person to move a feature over is whoever actually built it in the first place. And that person's usually busy working on the other game. So they have to wait for a gap, a lull between tasks, before they can loop back and bring it over. That's a real cost, real friction, just not the kind of cost that means one game's being abandoned. It's slower than instant, but not zero. So here's the part I actually want you walking away with, and why I think it matters beyond just settling an old argument. This isn't two teams fighting over one pool of resources or one game getting preference over the other. It's one shared machine, shared rigs, shared animations, shared design lessons that happens to output two different games. And once you see it that way, a lot of stuff makes more sense going forward. PoE1 getting a big expansion doesn't mean PoE2's getting neglected. A feature missing from one game for a while doesn't mean it's been forgotten. It just means the right person hasn't had a free window yet. That's a pattern you're gonna keep seeing. And now you know why it happens instead of assuming the worst every time it does. Settlers was real, and it was rough for PoE1 players at that time. I'm not pretending that didn't happen or hurt those players, but it was a one-time crunch during an actual massive launch of their new game, not the new normal. The PoE1 cadence since then, back to steady leagues, a new expansion every 4 months, tells you that. So that's the actual answer. GGG isn't splitting the player base. They're running one lean, shared operation that happens to output 2 games. And both of them are getting real investment, just not always at the same time or in the same direction. And honestly, after going through all of this, these interviews, this reveal, it's pretty clear GGG isn't just trying to keep both games alive. They're trying to make both of them genuinely thrive, not just survive next to whatever else is out there. Actually stand above it and stick around for the long haul. And just so you know, this isn't a new idea for this studio either. Chris Wilson spoke about this exact thing at GDC in 2019, where his talk was literally titled Designing Path of Exile to be Played Forever. That's been the whole philosophy this whole time, and this patch is just the latest proof they're still building toward that for both games, not just one. Let me know if you lived through the Settler stretch and what it actually felt like from your side. I'm genuinely curious. And with Curse of the Allflame dropping next week, are you actually jumping into that one or sitting this PoE1 round out? Let me know that too. And like always, if there's something else going on in PoE2 you want me digging into, drop it below. I read every single comment. All right, everybody, that's it for today. If you're new here, hit subscribe. Hit that like button too if you got something out of this. And come catch me live on Twitch and YouTube every evening. Links are in the description. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate it. And as always, we'll hope to see you on the next one. Take care. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and solely mine. Healthy debate is always encouraged. Hate is never welcomed. So get over it.